Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits of the Week video. I wanted to mix this one in because when I saw this suggestion within the latest Cryptids and Monsters suggestion video, I looked up more information on it and there's some really good stuff to us. I wanted to immediately share it with everyone here as a ghost or spirit of the week. It has to do with an entity of some sort that when you look at it visually, it is instantly like very memorable, like it is almost iconic, I guess you could say. Like this is a horror movie that is just waiting to be said or told here in the US. So I think that is pretty eerie stuff. So when I give you all the information about it, the way it interacts, and then also the ways that you can prevent it from continuing to haunt you, I think it makes for a very memorable entity to talk about. So I'm talking about the mysterious, creepy, uber scary, in this case, ghost or spirit known as the Pocong, which you're looking at a picture or drawing of here. So instantly memorable, don't you think? When you see something like this, it looks eerie, almost looks like a classic ghost, in this case with sheets over its body, but wrapped around it tight. I would say almost to the point of like being like a Silent Hill type monster. Then that's what makes it, to me at least, so memorable. And then especially with regards to its actions, even more so. So what is the Pocong? Well, it is a ghost of some sort that is found in Indonesia, and it's something there that has become quite common to the point that there are multiple, I guess you call them, encounters with the ghost, so much so that people have even come across ways to prevent this Pocong from following and haunting you. That's his thing too. Apparently when you come across this Pocong, it will absolutely follow you almost to the bitter end. So you have to have certain ways, certain things done to ensure that that is prevented. So let's go ahead and we'll delve into the information on the Pocong here. Who knows how long this thing has been out, like in terms of an entity. It certainly makes it seem like it's part of the folklore there in Indonesia. By the way, it's also found in Malaysia as well. And all these years, everything associated with it comes from one source. It's the idea of a person who is dead being wrapped in its traditional shroud, because I guess there's like a ceremony of some sort that's done for anyone who's deceased there. Well, when this shroud is wrapped around it, there is a specific number of days where it has to be then removed. I don't know 100% certain if this is within every deceased, I guess, body, like everyone that becomes dead there, if they have to go through this process. Somebody please point it out in the comments for everyone if that is truly true, or if that is just within special cases. But yes, this shroud is just a traditional cloth of some sort. It is wrapped around the dead body right before burial, and then when that happens, then it is placed in a very distinct manner. So it is tied in 3 places: once over the head, which gives it, to me, its most distinctive look, and then 2 over the neck, and then finally under the feet, and that allows it to look pretty distinctive. Now, I've seen some interpretations where it looks like it's also wrapped around the middle, so there's like a cord or some kind of, I don't know, rope of some sort that also is there too, so maybe there could be more than 3 places. But yes, once the body is buried after 40 days, those ties, those same ropes, they're supposed to be cut, because the whole idea is the soul that belongs to this newly deceased person must be allowed to escape thereafter. Going where, I'm not exactly sure, but maybe it's going into the other life. So wherever, I guess, the souls or the belief is there when it comes to Indonesia and Malaysia. But if it's not cut, if these ties are just left as is, that's when this Pocong takes over. By the way, the name itself, the Pocong, comes from the shroud itself. That is the cloth, that is the actual material that is used to wrap the deceased body. So hence the name itself of the entity being Pocong. Now here's where things take that really creepy turn. So once those 40 days are up, and then the ties that are still there are left, then the Pocong becomes restless. It'll actually jump up from its grave, jump out of the grave, presumably, of course, either forcibly, like in this case physically from the earth, or just floating through, I guess, the ground itself and then coming on top. But then it'll begin its quest. It seems like it has like a mindless quest of some sort. All it will do at that point then is just hop around. That's his movement, and the reason for it is because of those ties. It is still tied one set at least on the bottom of its feet, so it has no choice but to hop around as its form, or its primary form of movement, although other people that have encountered a Pocong have stated that it also seems to float, so that is another encounter too. So as far as its hopping, it's not like it's hopping like a rabbit per se. Instead, it'll jump pretty good distance. We're talking around maybe 40 or 50 feet at the time. So common encounters seem to be around the road, where people will suddenly see this very distinctive entity hop out of nowhere right into the road and then hop away. And of course people at that point are avoiding it because they know the legend there. They know that you don't necessarily want this thing to notice you or come towards you, because by then that's when it'll latch on to you. Now here's another distinct thing. It does not seem to harm anybody in like distinctly. So as scary as this entity is, and the fact that it'll start following you, it doesn't seem to harm you. It just seems to like latch on to you. So if something occurs and this thing sees you and it starts hopping your way, no matter how fast or how slow you go, it'll match that same speed. So if you decide, let's say you're walking and you notice the distinct sound of something hopping, in this case from behind you, this Pocong has now become latched to you. You can start running and it'll match your speed. If you start slowing down, it'll also match that very same speed too. There's only several ways to make sure that this Pocong then stops it. So these are the very distinct ways that I was mentioning earlier to prevent this Pocong from forever haunting you, because reading some other information, it seems like this thing will just basically follow you everywhere once it latches on to you. So the most distinct way is lie on the ground and pretend to be dead. I don't know how long necessarily you have to lie there, but this thing being just a mindless entity of some sort, once that happens, it'll come across you, and then after some time, presumably, it'll think that you are dead as well, and then it'll just hop away. The other way is by running, but in this case, instead of like running in a clear path where it can easily just follow you, no, run down something, like in this case a long winding road of some sort, maybe even through some thick forest, somewhere where there's lots of avenues to turn into, to turn around, to confuse it, in other words. And when that happens, then this thing will lose sight of you. It'll become confused and it will no longer follow you. It'll just lose interest at that point and then just hop away and go someplace else. There is a curious third way as well, according to some of the people that have encountered this creature, but this is actually good fortune for you if you do so. So if you have the bravery to come across it, I mean, like let's say you decide to confront it after you've tried to lose it and you can't lose it thereafter, so you decide to finally confront it. Well, if you come right up towards it and then hug it, like you actually wrap your arms around it in I guess a warm manner, just something very friendly, just out of the blue, hug this entity, whatever it is, then it's supposed to then disappear, because you're at that point at the advantage of being able to untie one of those ties, and then there it goes. It's off. Its spirit is released off into wherever it was supposed to go. So if you have enough bravado to do so and you come across a Pocong that does that following with you, then find it and then come across it and then hug it, and then that way you can ensure that it is then released. But the only time, one instance, that this thing seems to cause any harm is in an inadvertent manner. So when this thing is hopping around and it's not necessarily noticing people around it per se, but it comes across, let's say, a corner, and it suddenly a person is there, it'll actually just like smash into the person while it's hopping around. So again, this seems to be accidental, so but it seems to cause also some great harm because of the power that this thing has. So those are the only known instances where there was some harm to some person or some personnel, but it was purely by accident. So but yeah, that's all the information associated with this pretty creepy creature, this entity, whatever it is, this Pocong. If you wanted to also see something unsettling about this Pocong, there's the idea too that in other instances, if it cannot hop around and for whatever reason also cannot float around, then it's supposed to then roll along the ground in a very quick manner. So imagine something like this rolling straight towards you. The eyes there, the hollow eyes, the rotting skin. I forgot to mention too the description about it. So this Pocong, because it's basically a dead person around 40 days or so in a decaying process, imagine something like that, like its face looking rotten, its face looking decayed, this thing rolling across you and then coming as quickly as possible to you. So now that is quite a sight to see as well. But yes, that's all the information tied to this creature, this entity known as the Pocong. So if anyone has any more info, maybe someone that has been to that area there, Indonesia, maybe in Malaysia, happens to know more, it definitely seems like it's a common entity, like it's something that people talk about and share stories about. So if anyone has been to that area and knows more about it, please post those comments below. That would be really good to hear. So alright everybody, thanks again as always, take care.